evening, everybody. We are going to get our meeting started. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the October business meeting. We are thrilled to have nearly 60 stellar scholars, professional educators, performers. We just have a variety of people this evening that we are celebrating and are just delighted that you're with us. I do want to let you know, because we do have a lot of people here, as soon as we are finished with all of our presentations and celebrations of our individuals, we will break. So you'll have an opportunity, should you want to go home, or you are welcome to stay for the whole meeting, but we will break, and so you will have an opportunity to head out if you like. And with that, we will get started. Roll call.
Madam President, all members are present.
Fantastic. Next, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. If you please stand and join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda, we have Dr. Harmis, who's going to be sharing with us our National Merit semifinalist.
Well, good evening. It's an exciting night. The idea of the number of National Merit semifinalists that we have is staggering, and it always is at Carmel High School. The academically talented seniors we honor tonight have earned the prestigious designation, scoring in the top 1% of students nationwide in the PSAT test taken during their junior year. Put it in perspective, there were 1.6 million kids that took the PSAT. Our students are in the top 1%. There were over 22,000 high schools from across the country, and there were 16,000 semifinalists, and 45 of those are from Carmel High School. Kids, your high school is proud of you, not only as an individual honor, but it's also a great honor for your school and your district. Your accomplishments are one of the important parts of why Carmel Clay Schools and Carmel High School are highly regarded in this country, and especially in the state of Indiana. I talk to principals that I deal with daily, and they ask, how many kids did you have? And we say 45, and they're astounded because it's more than 4 times any other school in the state of Indiana. The education, the devotion that our kids have towards their academic achievement is second to none. I'd like to thank all the teachers, the counselors, the parents for their support and encouragement they've given to you to make this possible. The support that you receive from all these sources are integral to your ability to realize your potential. The other thing that's most important, you work hard. You know, people think, oh yeah, those are the smart kids. Well, the reality is, yeah, they've been blessed, but the reality, you work hard and you put the hours in and you spend the time. Your parents support you, and to them, we truly say thank you. Right now, Melinda Steffen, our college and career counselor, is going to come up and say the names of the candidates. Dr. Beresford, would you join us?
Dr. Beresford and members of the board, I am always, this is one of my favorite nights of the year. I'm very pleased to present to you our class of 2019 National Merit semifinalists. Students, when I call your name, if you'll come up and be congratulated, grab your certificate, and then please follow around to the front so that our members of the board can congratulate you as well. Separ Asghari. Okay. Rita Bonde. I think it's a good time to tell everybody about the Carmel Clap if you don't already know about it. At Carmel High School, we do one single clap after everybody's name, keeps things moving along, but gives everybody the recognition they deserve. Patrick Kavanaugh. Shraneeth Chawla. Vincent Chang. Alec DeLong. Armand Goyle. Ian Gordon. Jacob Green. Agrayan Gupta. Samya Gupta. Patrick Haran. Lant Jenkins. Parker Joe. Jessica Conrad. Hannah Kosk. Satvik Kumar. Parker Lawrence. Jacob Lee. Kevin Liu. Victor Mai. Rachel Morrison. Adele Murphy. Simanti Naikin. Anna Novak. Celine O. Anthony Oyu. Joe Pavola. Heidi Pang. Sai Podaretti. Rahul Prakash. Kavan Rajendran. Muskan Ramchandani. Adam Ratzman. Austin Roberts. Jocelyn Shan. Samuel Shee. Andrew Slew. Siddharth Samasi. Ali Turk. Alana Wu. James Yin. Michelle Yin. Kevin Zhang. And Kyle Zhang. Please help me in congratulating our class of 2019 National Merit semifinalists.
You deserve it. She gonna say that?
Do you want to go?
You just want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Last spring, one of the choir directors came into my office and said, I have this idea. I'd really like to do a fall musical. And I said, well, sure. what is it? He said, edges. I said, sure, what is it? He goes, trust me. And I said, yeah, I'll trust you. I'm going to tell you, opening night, I was there. Dr. Beresford was sitting next to us. What a performance. I mean, for walking in and not really knowing what was going to happen, because Sam Chenoweth said, you got to trust me. It's a little bit different, but you're going to love it. Well, I guarantee you, I loved it. It was so exciting. It was unbelievable. And kids, you did a great, great job. So I'd like to introduce the two gentlemen that were the lead of this musical. Sam Chenoweth and Kyle Barker. They're going to come up and introduce the kids, and I believe we might even get a song out of them. Gentlemen?
Thank you, Dr. Harmis, Dr. Beresford, and the board for having us. We really appreciate it. Cast, you can come on up now and go ahead and get set. I'll just add that it's been a joy to lead these students in this process. This show was written in a way that it was kind of an open book for us to write. So we got the music on the page and everything else we put together as a collaborative process. And I think I can speak for the students in that it was a really enjoyable yet really rewarding process for all of us. So we're going to perform the final number from the show, Like Breathing. I hope you enjoy. This is the cast of Edges. And for some individual introductions, we'll just go down the line. Maddie Pittler, come over and grab a certificate. Amber Pozovac. Griffin Scott. Madeline Hatfield. Lauren Grumbacher. Sydney Green. Chase LaPlante. And Jack Ducat.
With you guys. Photo op? Okay.
You gotta get their autographs now. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, congratulations, guys.
Next on the agenda, we have our Best Buddy Champion nominations, and Ms. Courtney Taylor is going to be introducing.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name's Courtney Taylor. I'm the Community Relations Liaison. I don't get the opportunity to speak at the podium much. I'm kind of behind the scenes, but I'm really excited tonight to recognize 2 outstanding individuals for their contributions to the Best Buddies of Indiana program. So if I could have Christine Ellis and Gabby Stichter to come up here with me, please. And you'll just hang out right here while I say awesome things about you, right? So Carmel High School 9th grade language arts teacher Christine Ellis and sophomore Gabby Stichter are among 9 individuals in the state to be nominated for the Best Buddies Champion of the Year. Gabby, in fact, is actually the first teenager and the youngest individual to be nominated as a champion. And Christine is our teacher sponsor, along with Dana James and Brooke Reeder for the Best Buddies Club at Carmel High School. While at Butler University, Christine led the largest Best Buddies chapter in the school's history and was recognized as the top fundraising college chapter in the state. So Carmel High School has the largest Best Buddies program in the state with over 300 members and 70 peer buddy and buddy matches. Best Buddies is an incredible organization that creates opportunities for one-to-one friendships between people with and without disabilities, all while educating and empowering people to become leaders and advocates for inclusion. Being nominated for Best Buddies Champion of the Year comes with a big challenge. For 8 weeks, they must fundraise to create awareness events for Best Buddies, and at the campaign's conclusion, Christine and Gabby will attend a celebratory gala on November 10th, where the Best Buddies Champion of the Year will be named. So tonight, I'd like to congratulate both of you for your achievement and say that we are proud for all that you do for Carmel High School and Best Buddies of Indiana. So congratulations.
Do you guys have some special guests?
Yes,
you
they
want to bring
do.
on up? Well, come on over and introduce
Come on
your
over and
guests.
introduce.
Kylene is my buddy. She's in the back. She's going to come up here. I've known her for the past 4 years at Butler University and have known her for a couple other years outside of college. She is one of my best friends, and I wouldn't do this competition without her. So this is Kylene Weber. She's also a Carmel High School alumnus. And
artist right here is Donna Hammock. I've known her since I was about 3 years old, and I am best friends with her son, Kevin Miller, and she's my campaign manager. That's okay.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, guys.
Gabby and Christine, we wish you the very best of luck as you enter into the final stages of your fundraising competition. And next on the agenda, we have our Spotlight on Excellence. And this is an opportunity for the board to showcase innovative ideas and just some really creative ways that our students and our professional educators and other staff members really exemplify what is great about our Carmel schools. And this evening we have Miss Mimi Pruitt, there she is, yes, who's going to be presenting this evening.
Thank you so much for having me. And as a parent myself, I've got to just say before I even say this, because I'm about bursting here, what a great night it has been. I mean, we've had entertainment, we've got intelligence, and I've even got my eye. So it's just thank you so much for inviting me. So I had the pleasure of spending great time with my daughter in Mississippi this weekend, and so y'all even marked my kids, and I'm just super proud of you all. So thank you. And now that I've got that under control, I'm with the American Heart Association, and I'd like to start out, first of all, by thanking the Carmel Clay Schools, students, and parents for their support of the American Heart Association. Last year, the Carmel Clay Schools raised $43,949 to fund research for stroke and heart health, in addition to CPR. So this year I'm hoping we have some more schools to join, but I'm going to go ahead and list and thank those people, even though they're not here, before I go ahead and give my presentation. Patrick Murphy at Carmel Elementary, Cindy Sensman at Carmel Middle School, Kim Timbrink at Carmel High School, Robin Walker at Town Meadow Elementary, Lindsay Guest at West Clay Elementary, and John Zingrelli at Woodbrook Elementary. Without that support, we are not able to fund many things. And our mission, and I'd like Anush to come up during this portion, please, because he embodies this. So our mission is to be a relentless force for a world of longer, healthier lives. Anush reached out to the American Heart Association last spring. He had great support from his mother, Dipti, and said, I have an idea, and emailed me. And I read it, and I'm like, okay. He wanted to go to India and teach CPR to students because they don't have the same opportunities in education for heart health that we have here. And I'm going to let him explain a little more about that process. But he was relentless because we met again and again and again, and we came up with a plan of how we can get this accomplished or get this project going. What he chose to do was teach CPR to middle school and high schoolers. He taught CPR to 300 middle school and high school students during the course of a week. So he really does encompass that relentless force and that look at the world as a whole for longer and healthier lives. So for that, this junior in high school, who is a rising star, who I'm sure you're probably going to hear more of in Carmel Clay Stools, is being awarded a Heart Saver Award. And I'm going to read it to you because I think it just explains it a little better. And this is for in recognition of advancing the mission of the American Heart Association in emergency cardiovascular care through a courageous act in the effort to save a life. And his courageous act was learning CPR on his own, taking his own personal time, spending his time during a family vacation to train those 300 students because he has that kind of heart. So I get a little teared up because I'm really proud of him, and I'm going to let him talk a little more about his experience. So thank you so much for having me tonight.
Oh, shoot. All right, so I had a small speech. So to Dr. Beresford and the board, I thank you for allowing me to come out and speak to you today. And so my name's Anush. I'm a junior at Carmel High School, and over the summer last year, I reached out to Ms. Pruitt to teach kids how to properly perform CPR because, as she said, many schools there don't provide that basic source that we get here from the American Heart Association. So I thought that maybe I could teach a few kids how to properly do it. And a staggering statistic is that in India, over 700,000, there are over 700,000 cases of sudden cardiac death each year, which could definitely be prevented if people had that basic understanding of how to properly address a cardiac arrest. And I'd like to say that my experience was very encouraging and fulfilling, and I intend to go back next year and continue this endeavor. And furthermore, I'd like to thank my parents for supporting me throughout this, because obviously without them I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't have been able to properly execute this entire thing. Thank you.
Congratulations to all of our students and our professional educators who are with us this evening and our special guests. At this time, we will take about a 5-minute break. If you want to take additional pictures or go do other things, you are welcome to do so. Thank you.
I get you. I understand that language.
T-shirts are pretty big.
And if you guys like some,
At the high school.
it's my job.
Like she doesn't go right there with stats and stuff. They put it in her and she's going to but even if they just use the story.
We're famous stuff. Everyone figured it out.
She's had something like that. Something
And then
I'm going to talk to her because and then I will be on social media. Just go out on the Heart social media a little later today. There's a STEM event tomorrow that I know Tim. And he was at the I'm going to get the STEM event tomorrow, so it'll be later this week. And she's going to maybe next. So I'm going to start kind of tweeting back about this. Sounds great. Oh, okay.
Hang on. Okay. Oops. Doesn't roll like that. Next on the agenda this evening, we have consent. May I have a motion to approve consent?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Moving right along, we have our action items. And our first action item tonight is our program of study course changes. And to that, we turn to Dr. Dudley.
Thank you. So at our September business meeting, I brought to you some changes with some new proposed courses for the program of study from Carmel High School. And these new courses and change modifications and deletions of courses come through a curriculum advisory committee, which is made up of teachers, parents, administrators, where they review the course of studies, departments, talk about possible new courses, and then the curriculum advisory proposes those courses that I'm now proposing to you. And I recommend that you approve the changes in the program of studies for the 1920 school year.
Thank you, Dr. Dudley. May I get a motion on the table to approve the 2019-20 course proposals presented by Dr. Dudley?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, motion carries. Next on the agenda, we turn to Mr. McMichael for the adoption of the 2019 budget, the capital project plan, and the bus replacement plan. Mr. McMichael.
Thank you. In early September, the 2019 budgets and the capital plan, the bus replacement plan, were first presented to the school board. Then we advertised for a public hearing, and on the 24th of September, there was opportunity for the public to have input and comment relative to these items. And so this evening, it's now necessary to move forward, in order to move forward, for the board to adopt a 2019 budget, a capital projects plan, and the bus replacement plan. After this step, then we'll submit this to the ultimately to the state because it also requires their approval.
Thank you, Mr. McMichael. So we have before us on the table the resolution to adopt capital projects plan, the 2019 bus replacement plan, as well as appropriation in our tax rates. May I get a motion on the table to approve each of the resolutions?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. Pam.
Yes, I just want to make sure that the public knows that even though it's not included in the resolution, that the bus replacement plan is for a 5-year period, which is different than it was before.
That's correct. It was previously 12 years.
Yes, right.
Good point to bring up.
I should point out that we wouldn't. That doesn't mean we're going to replace the buses every 5 years. It's just that they're requiring a shorter plan in terms of looking out to the future.
Right. Well, now that you bring that up, is there a rationale as to why they've reduced the plan?
I really don't know. I haven't actually heard. They just made the change to 5 from 12.
Okay.
But we're not changing. I mean,
No.
we will still replace them in the, is it the 12-year cycle?
Yes, that's what I wanted to emphasize. We're not intending to change our schedule of replacement.
Thank you, Mr. McMichael. Are there other questions? Thank you. Then we have a motion on the table for the approval of the September 24th meeting board plan for the 2019 budgets, the capital projects plan, and the bus replacement plan. All those in favor of supporting the recommendation signify by saying aye. Aye. Unanimous, motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution to establish the initial funding for the education and the operation funds. Mr. McMichael.
Thank you. These next two items are reflecting the change in some statutory changes relative to our accounts that we have and the various funds that we have. And so these resolutions will establish initial funding for the new education fund and the new operations fund. Essentially what we're doing is gives authorization to transfer the December 31st balance from our general fund to the education fund, and then our fund balances in the capital projects fund, the transportation fund, the bus and the bus replacement fund to the new operations fund. And this would all be effective, will be effective January the 1st, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. McMichael. May I get a motion on the table to approve the transfer of funds to the new education fund?
So moved.
Thank you. That's okay. Second.
Second.
Lynn moved. Pam second. Discussion. The only one discussion item I do want to say, or at least bring up for, I guess, our purpose as well as the public, is that even though they've changed how we're going to present our budgets, it has not changed the funding that we receive.
That's correct.
We will still get the same amount.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor of supporting the development of our education fund as well as our operation fund and transfer the balances into those funds on December 31st, 2018, signify by saying aye. Aye. Unanimous, motion carries. Thank you. Mr. McMichael, we turn to you for the very last resolution this evening, transfer of our education fund and the operation fund.
Yes, again, under the new statute, the revenue for what previously was our general fund now is the education fund. So the vast majority of that revenue will continue to come from the state, but we're required to deposit all the funds into the education fund. However, going forward, the education fund will only be used for direct educational expenses for students, and therefore items such as utilities, for example, in the business office, custodial services, those expenses previously in the general fund will now be in the operation fund. So this resolution will permit the transfer of the revenue that will support those expenses that previously were in the general fund. So the money is just following the expense over to the operations fund.
Thank you, Mr. McMichael. We need to get a motion on the table to approve the transfer of $16,122,998 from the education fund into the operations fund for the 2019 calendar year.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. Pam and Katie.
Yes, I just want to make sure that during the year's time, even though we're transferring all that money into the fund at this point, that we will have a chance to re-examine the amount that we're putting in that fund, or the amount that we need to transfer from the education fund. Possibly we'll be able to look at it during the financial update each month and maybe have a 6-month turnaround or update.
Sure, yes. Our intent, while this is the annual amount, we won't just transfer $16 million on day one. We'll actually make the transfers monthly. The intent is to transfer essentially the exact amount of the expense. And so as we get to the end of the year, and when we finally get to the end of the year, we will look back and see, if we're plus or minus. And if we are, either way, then we would intend to make an adjustment the next year. So that because it is not our intent to transfer more than we would need to cover those expenses. At the same time, at this point, it's not the intent to transfer less either. So this number matches our projection for the expenses. We're very close to it.
So you'll bring that information to the board periodically.
Yes.
So we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, it won't mean a lot throughout the year because. Like other areas of our now general fund, the expenses aren't equal each. They're not like 1/12 through each month. But it'll become more insightful as the year goes on. As we get into October, November, December, it'd be pretty obvious that we're either getting pretty close to this number or we're not. But it should be pretty. We think it'll be pretty close.
Okay, thank you. Katie, you had a question.
Yeah, it uses the phrase tuition support payments in the background information. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yes, that's in the state formula for funding of schools. What now is funding for the education fund? That's the term that is used for the money. There's a formula, and the formula finally drives and determines how much money each school corporation will receive. And so the board has no control over that really. And it's primarily driven by enrollment, of course, and so those funds then are that's the term that's used is tuition transfer tuition.
So the money allotted per student is called tuition support payment.
Tuition support payment.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, so the motion on the table is to transfer, and I'll just repeat what I said before then, $16,122,998 from the education fund to the operations fund to reimburse the operation fund for the expenses that are not allocated to student instruction and learning under Indiana Code 20-42.5 for the period calendar year 2019. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries, unanimous. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have our legislative priorities, and to that, we turn to our legislative liaison, Mr. Kirschner.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. So these are the draft legislative priorities that we circulated amongst the board, so I will not take time to read them out loud. They are based upon the ISBA, which is the Indiana School Board Association 2019 legislative priorities, but we go through and pick and choose from their priorities, the ones that we feel are important, and make those our priority. I'm happy to have as much discussion as we want about it. I thank Pam for some comments she provided in advance. I guess I'll just go through them quickly. Number one is increased funding for K through 12 students, which is kind of an obvious one that we're always looking for more money for the state. 2 is enhanced teacher recruitment and retention programs. 3 is tax credits for public school foundations, asking that they provide a Indiana tax credit to charitable contributions to public school foundations like the Carmel Education Foundation. Number 4 is tax deduction for school textbooks and supplies. 5 is assistance for losses from the circuit breaker. And while Carmel has been relatively fortunate and not to get hit as harshly as other districts, it does hurt our budget, and we feel a responsibility to look out for other districts that are not as fortunate as us. Non-public school funding and accountability, to not take funds that are designated for public schools and give them to charters or education or other kinds of vouchers. Change the kindergarten ADM start date to September 1st, and expand the criteria of safe havens grants to support social, emotional, and mental health needs. I will point out in number 6, and I guess I'll point out in general, we start out with guiding with the priorities, and then we have a discussion, kind of a little bit more detail. We used to have 2 versions of this, one which was just the legislative priorities, and then the discussion was on a separate version, but we will share this with our legislators and a select few other Indiana legislators, and we thought there's no reason to give them anything less than what we have ourselves. So in number 6, the very last sentence is student assessment should be equivalent to those in public schools. That same sentence is also the very last sentence in the discussion, so I would propose that we take it out of discussion and just leave it in number 6. Also, I shared with the board what all of the ISBA legislative priorities that were adopted by them at their conference a couple months ago, so that if board members felt that we should include some of those, we could. And I've also reviewed this with Dr. Beresford, and I'd like to thank him. He's already been talking to and meeting with legislators. As the session will start in January, we don't even know who all of our representatives will be till the election, but we're getting that ball started. We are expecting, as always, a number of new legislation on education and especially on school safety. So I will open it up to any other questions and go from there.
Well, my first question, first, thank you very much for putting this together for us. I know we always look forward to having our legislative priorities, so we have talking points, and since 2012, we've made a very conscious effort to establish relationships with our key legislators to help support public education and especially our students here in Carmel. With the current suggestions. I'm wondering if we want to change the order at all. I know number one should definitely be funding, but there are some others that, and I don't know if you and Dr. Beresford had that discussion already, and you've set these up in this particular order for any particular reason. I do like the Safe Haven grant. Our social, emotional, and mental health needs, I think, is very important. And if we wanted to, I would support moving that up in the list, because when we have legislative priorities, when they're numbered, the first one is most important, and the one at the end might not get as much attention. So that would be my contribution to discussion for now.
I would like to, personally, I don't think the order matters, because I think all 8 of them are very important, especially the kindergarten ADM count, because I know that was an issue this year. I would like to add the word psychologist to number 8. Everything I read about mental health and adding to the social, emotional, and mental health needs of the students, psychologists are very important in the schools. And so it's not just the social workers and the health counselors, but the psychologists have to be involved as well. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you both. I'm taking notes, and I think that the numbering was a little bit strategic, though probably once we got off the first page, that order was not as well thought. So I agree to maybe move number 8 to be number 4, and I will add Pam's suggestion. And again, this is just discussion, so we will bring this back at another meeting. And if I haven't said, these will go out with a letter to our legislators that represent Carmel and to other key budget or education people, and then we will also offer to meet with all of those people that we send the letter to. And we have also talked about setting up a forum to invite them to come here and really talk about education and legislative priorities. So that's in the works.
I can provide a little bit of an update. Just today, I've been speaking with the other superintendents in Hamilton County and also over in Zionsville, and trying to determine who is hosting the legislative luncheon, and it turns out it's us. So we're working on dates now, to see when everyone can come here, and so we're working on that legislative luncheon. Just today we were working on it. So meeting with Hamilton County superintendents tomorrow morning, and we'll see if we can zero in on a date and go ahead and get that ball rolling.
I haven't been to a forum in a few years. I mean, the last 2 that I went to were in HSE, and so I would love to see one here. What kind of discussion have we had on timing? Are we inviting all of the other Hamilton County, including maybe Zionsville, to join us, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's correct. This is actually the one we've done every year, for several years, and so we were trying to go backwards in the history to figure out who.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about the luncheon.
Okay.
I'm talking.
Okay.
You've twice HSE has hosted an evening. Twice HSE has hosted an evening forums.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Q&A, and all of our panelists were, there, and were giving lots of feedback. And it was probably the last one was it was after our first referendum, so I think it was in 2011 that we attended. So, have we transitioned that we do not have that type of a forum per se, and it's more of the luncheon and just more of a casual conversation?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with well, I am familiar with the HSE ones, but what I was speaking to was the county-wide one, the luncheon that we've always done. And then what Mike and I were discussing was perhaps reaching out to our local legislators and maybe some others and bringing them here for a specific conversation with just Carmel schools, okay. Carmel Clay schools and the legislatures.
You don't have to whisper. Go ahead, Pam.
No, I was just going to say ISBA has also started a new legislative liaison program where they're going to have some members of boards come in and discuss, learn how to go out and approach legislators and keep them updated on legislative programs and things that are coming up in the session. And we are supposed to have somebody on our current board.
And we do.
It's
a legislative advocacy position, yes. And Mike is fulfilling that role.
Yes, I knew that.
Oh, okay.
Well, I was just bringing it up so people knew what we were doing.
And I think it's important to note that, you know, we as Carmel Clay school boards and the people that were doing this work well before us have always taken this is an important responsibility that they had, and ISBA has always been, you know, present at the State House, and it's just been the last couple of years that they've really decided to make it a grassroots effort and try and harness the power of all the board members and all the administrators so that it wasn't just a lobbyist coming and standing up in front of them. And so I believe this advocate system is another step in that direction. So, you know, and of course we've had discussions with ISBA and our past superintendents, and I know Dr. Beresford will be working, testifying and behind the scenes to provide our legislators with how the real world works and how things affect us when they make decisions.
Go ahead, Katie.
One of the things I like that we do is we take, the ISBA represents the entire state of Indiana, and we take their recommendations and we tailor them to meet the needs of our Carmel Clay School families. And I think especially on number 3 and 4, tax credit for public school foundations. Roger, can you correct me, if a person donates to Carmel Clay Schools, are they allowed to write that off, just generally?
Not in the way they can like with a private school. That's what some of this is referring to, really.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I was correct. So the foundation, I know for sure, but then as far as like just donating to our schools, like when we see those donations on our claims, they're not able to write those off.
Well, that's where I was hesitating a little bit because it depends what they're donating. If they donate a piece of equipment, for example, then they can, you know, they would have an opportunity to write that off as a charitable donation. But if they donate cash, like if somebody were to donate cash to a private school, they can write that off. If they do that with public school, they can't.
Okay. And then for the...
Well, but I think it's important just to clarify. I mean, the Carmel Education Foundation is a 501c3
yes, they absolutely
charity,
can
so
write that
you
off.
get a federal tax deduction if you qualify for it. And with the new change in tax law, a lot less people are going to be itemizing and being able to take advantage of that. So this is asking for a specific Indiana credit against Indiana income tax returns.
Yes. Okay. I was just making sure that I understood the difference between if someone donated to the Carmel Clay Schools and then the foundation. And then for the tax deduction for school textbooks and supplies, that is something that we have to do for the state of Indiana, charging.
No, well, actually, no. You don't have to. It's just I don't know any school district that doesn't, because if we didn't, we would be using general funds and now the education fund for an expense that we're not receiving revenue for. And to the extent other districts, all districts that I'm aware of, do charge. We're one of about, I think, 4 states or something like that in the country that have this concept. So we have people move here that they don't understand that, you know, why they would be paying for textbooks rental. But so that's, as a practical matter, we really pretty much have to charge for the
I just think it's great that we are going, like I said, going back to and see the needs of our families and how
Yes.
they want to support us, they want to do all these things, and how we can make it, easier for them and more feasible.
Right.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion items? Okay, so Mike, if we have additional questions or concerns or ideas, we will send those to you, and then shall we discuss this just briefly at our next workshop, or before we jump into workshop material? Because we'll be adopting these then at our November general business meeting.
I guess we can leave time at that meeting to discuss it, and if not, we'll just adopt them as
Okay,
needed.
that sounds great.
Has changed or amended?
Yep, sounds great. Thank you very much. Moving right along, we move back to Roger for our monthly financial update.
Okay, let me get this pulled up here. Okay, so we're through September, and we're tracking just pretty much where we would have projected. You'll see our cash balance is going down, which is to be expected. We're at about $3.4 million ending balance. You'll notice that's less than it was a year ago. The primary reason for that is because we have also noticed that we have more referendum funds this year by about $3.5 million. And so since that our expenses pretty much stay the same, I mean, they're primarily salaries, so they're pretty consistent from one month to the next. But our revenue, on the other hand, with the local referendum, that's coming when people pay their taxes. And so to the extent that number is larger this year than it was last year, we have a higher percentage of our revenue coming from that source, and since it's periodic, that's what's reflecting in the balance being less than it was last year. You'll see that pick back up as when we get into November, and then certainly December when we receive those local tax dollars.
Thank you, Roger. Do we have questions from the board at this time? Roger, thank you very much for that information. Just as we project ahead, will you have a projection at the December business meeting on what the two funds will look like? Or will that be in January that you will have the new breakdown?
I hadn't thought that far ahead, but it'll be January because we would still be under this program through the end of this year.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you very much. Next, we have our superintendent's report. Dr. Beresford.
Thank you. I've got a lengthy list because there is a lot going on in Carmel Clay Schools right now. But I wanted to start off my report with just a brief update on the big rocks, or the goals that we had for this year. Just not a whole lot of depth, but just kind of let you know where we are and how we're progressing on those goals. As you recall, the first one that we presented back in our retreat was about the design and construction of the new elementary schools. And that project is well on its way. We've had what's called the Project Visioning Committee, which is made up of elementary principals, some ESC administrators, architects, and design specialists. And we've met a couple of times already in starting through that process of what design features and what 21st century educational space looks like. And it's been pretty fun and exciting. Along with that, they are organizing focus groups with different populations of teachers, like regular classroom teachers, or like K-1-2 teachers, and then the older grade and specialist teachers and that sort of thing. So focus groups are being formed and going on. We're looking at possibly making our workshop in November a focus group for the board. With that design team, Roger's going to chase that down and see if that'll work. But that's kind of what we'd like to get you involved into that as well. The second big rock was exploring changes in the school day, and we had some things we were exploring both at the elementary level and the secondary level. At the elementary level, we were just looking at what occurs during the school day, and there was conversations about whether there should be time added to that school day or even restructure our current school day. So there's quite a few little questions like that around. And in the the secondary, we were looking at a lot of research on the start of the school day being pushed back in more of an 8:30, 8:45 kind of zone, which is better fits the adolescent development in that sleep cycle that goes on during that time of life. Those projects are proceeding. There were a lot of rumors, especially this weekend, about that there's these intricate plans about the school day, and that's just not factual. What's happening at this point in time is discussions have occurred with the administration already, and now the administrators are moving that discussion in with the teachers, so we can get teacher feedback on the pros and cons, and kind of looking at more details, a more detailed look at what it might look like, and what the educators, professional educators in the classroom feel like would be beneficial to their school day and to their students. So, with this rising group of 21st century learners are different learners than we've had, the years past. The learners change every year, and we have to be nimble in education to meet those needs. So those things are going on, but whatever you hear on Facebook about, we're going to start elementary at 7 in the morning, that's not going to happen. None of those decisions have made or even been discussed much, so there's a lot of rumors going on. But we're following our process that we shared at the start of the year, is that we're going to look at research, we're going to get feedback from our administration, our teachers, and then we're going to have parent meetings where the parents will get to weigh in and learn about the research and the reasons why we're exploring it, and then be able to weigh in. And when we have all the stakeholders and all the information together, at that point in time, administration would be making a recommendation to you all if we're going to change anything at all. So did want you to know that was going on, though. The original timeline we gave you, we were trying to get a lot of these things completed in November, December, and I don't see that happening. I think they're going to push back more into January at this point in time. We did have a couple things go on where we had a staff member who was going to lead that charge, especially with the high ability grouping discussion and the different ways to deliver high ability programming. And that person, unfortunately, had to leave their position due to some family issues, I believe. So we're kind of been a bit of a delay there. But again, we're going to follow the same process and get all the stakeholders involved in that. So that will be coming up pretty soon as well. The teacher talent development system, we called it the evaluation system, and we're trying to change that culture. The administrative committee has met a couple weeks ago, and the joint meeting with teachers is scheduled for Halloween, October 31st. So that'll be going on, and we're going to be looking at maybe a change for the next year if everything goes well with that committee, and go into more of a talent development and a more motivational system rather than the current 70-box rubric system. So hopefully we'll get that. That'll be progressing here pretty soon. And then finally, the communication systems, which was our change in the website, and then a more emphasis on PowerSchool and Canvas. And then I would also throw in our Stop It app for two-way anonymous communications for school safety. That Stop It app will be rolling out in December. And then we had just been sending out notices to families. I think we completed the L's. We're all the way to the L's, which is approximately 6,000 families got an email and a secured message from School Messenger with a password in order to set up an account so they will have parent access to PowerSchool, where they'll get grades and bus information and just a whole bunch of information. And we've only had like 860 or so people, parents, actually sign up and get logged in. So we're a little nervous. So we want to get the word out that you need to check your School Messenger and set up those accounts, because when we retire my CCS, if you don't have that set up, then you're going to be behind. So we'll be doing some public service announcements about that for certain. Yeah, well, you guys can be leaders and set the standard, be a good example, and then you can come back and report how easy it is to do that. So it'll be fantastic. So that's just a very brief update on the big rocks on our goals for this year, and we are progressing, and I really appreciate our teams that are working on all the different things, and Amy and her team, and Roger and his team, and we've just got a lot going on. Our principals have been fabulous. Our teachers are giving us great insight and feedback. So I'm really excited about the team approach to looking at these issues that are so important for our kids. Then we'll go into the highlight zone. Mrs. B and I were at the Band of America Super Regional to watch the Marching Greyhounds win. I mean, it was crazy. It was 70 bands. They were all just outstanding, and then Carmel took the field at Lucas Oil Stadium and just put on a performance like just out of this world. The musical quality, the complexity of the marching, the props, this Viking ship with a dragon head that seemed to just, go one side of the field, the other time you turned around it was somewhere else, and there were rifles flying and caught all at the exact same time. It was the most synchronized thing I've ever seen, and for them to take home that title and win every aspect of that competition was really something special. So you just have to see it to believe it. It was amazing. This is all going on in the same weekend. Our JV cheerleaders won the Indiana Cheer Championships this past weekend, and the CHS Cheer were also state runners-up in the stunt group, so all the stunts with acrobatics. And so, and then, of course, I was down in Seymour to watch the girls' soccer team win the semi-state 3-0 over Center Grove, and they'll be playing in the state finals on Saturday night at Carroll Stadium on the campus of IUPUI for the state title. The Greyhound Unified Bocce Ball team was state runners-up, and it's always good to see our unified teams compete, and they have such it's nice to win the titles and the runners-up, but really they just have a ball and have a lot of fun, and that's exciting business. Boys tennis, I was getting reports on my text and Twitter on how the boys tennis was going, and now, of course, Carmel won the state tennis team competition for the third year in a row, three-peat, and then so that was exciting. But this last weekend, Presley Thieneman, he won the IHSA Boys State Singles Individual Championship. So he became the #1 player and the champion of Indiana. So just that tennis program still adding, gold to their cash there. And then Timmy Dixon and Garrett Lloyd were the runners-up in the doubles competition. So again, our Carmel tennis boys, and it was pretty windy. Chilly day, and they just took care of business. Real proud of those guys. Just some announcements. The Parent School Safety Academy is going to have an informational meeting on November the 7th at Clay Middle School, and that'll start at 6:30. And Dave Woodward's running that show, and it's going to lay out some opportunities for parents to learn about school safety and kind of what that program will look like. And so parents will know what they're getting into before we actually start running into that second semester. So we had talked about that at our safety forum we did at the very start of the year. And so it's coming true, and under the great leadership of Mr. Woodward. I already talked about the Power School portal, and you guys are going to register tonight, right? Before you go to sleep tonight, we're going to get that done. Some big excitement is coming up this Saturday with the Carmel Education Foundation's Ghosts and Goblins. So it is time. And I will be starting the race, and I will be running the 5K. So anybody that wants to donate to the Carmel Education Foundation per kilometer. So like if it's $100 a kilometer, that would be a $500 donation, right? If it was $1,000 per kilometer, it would be a $5,000 donation. But anybody that wants to sponsor me, either for the 5K or for each kilometer, because you never know if I can make it all 5 or not. So we'll just see. If it's $1,000 a kilometer, I will crawl to make that happen. But that's pretty exciting stuff, and we want to really encourage our community to get behind the foundation. This is a big fundraiser. And also, the Golden Pumpkin Award is on the line. The Golden Pumpkin goes to the school or educational service center who has the highest participation of participants in the race or volunteering to help run the race. And so all the schools are going to, they all sign in and they mark, and we're going to do the percentages and see who comes out on top. And the winner will get the prestigious Golden Pumpkin Award, which is sitting in our office right now, and it's not quite gold yet, but it will be gold for the winner of the Golden Pumpkin Award. You might have saw last week was National School Lunch Week, and we did there's a lot of special things that went on with prizes and such, and I was able to serve chicken strips and broccoli to some great kids at West Clay and had a great time. And I did, unfortunately, get a picture of me in a hairnet that kind of went viral in my little world. Everybody who knows me made fun of me about the hairnet. I was just encouraged that they thought that I would need a hairnet, so I thought it was pretty kind of a compliment of sorts. But boy, I had a blast, and I was remarkable. I was so surprised how many kids asked for broccoli. There's a lot of kids that are eating right and eating broccoli, so I was excited about that. This week is America's Safe Schools Week. So schools will be communicating safety tips throughout the week. I've already seen some schools have created videos they're showing each day with school mascots and a lot of very cute communications, but really just to emphasize, some very simple safe school practices like don't open the doors for strangers, get an adult to make a decision on that, being aware when you go to your bus and your bus stop and looking both ways and being very careful about those things. Just a lot of very helpful, simple, safe schools tips, and that's going on this week, and we're excited about that, as well as our bus driver, bus monitor, bus mechanics appreciation week is going on, and Courtney Taylor made a really neat video to give them some love. So we are very thankful for our transportation department and all the players in there that get our kids back and forth to school safely every day. And then finally, 25% of the school year is complete. It's hard to believe that we're already got the first lap, the first quarter is over with, and report cards will be sent as a secured document electronically via school messenger on Friday. So this will be different from in the past. They're actually going to get a message, and they're going to have the report card delivered to your inbox. So that's going to be a little bit different, and we're excited about that. But I can tell you that I couldn't be more pleased with the first quarter of school. Our teachers, our support staff, our team, top to bottom, has just gotten off to a great start, and I really feel like we're in the rhythm of school now, and a lot of good things happening. And tonight was a great example. There's just a lot of really good things happening in Carmel Clay schools, and that would be my report.
Thank you, Dr. Beresford. Does anybody have questions?
No, but
I have one.
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I'm just very impressed with how you have just jumped right into the school year and been so involved in our schools, and it just shows how important our students are to you as a superintendent, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I think we echo, well, not I think, I know we echo your sentiments, Pam. We hired you for a reason, and we are extremely pleased with our hire, so thank you, thank you. I do have a quick question for you with regards to school safety and the parent safety meeting. Have we given any thought to having active threat training for our parents so they understand what our students are receiving? It's just, I know other school districts have done that. I would be very much interested in providing that, and I wasn't sure if you have, or Mr. Woodard had given that any thought.
Yeah, I don't want to steal his thunder, but the concept that's going to be introduced at that meeting is a Parent Safe School Academy, kind of an academy concept. And as part of that academy, that training will occur. So you're spot on in your thinking, as well as a lot of other things. Now, we're not going to give out any information that would compromise our school safety program, but like those drills that the students do, this Parent Academy, they will learn the same information, the same exact training, basically, of that, along with a lot of other information. So yeah, spot on. That's exactly where that training is going.
So will this academy be open to everybody who wants to participate, or is this an application process to be part of the academy?
There will be an application process because you can't really do that effective training with 120 people. So what we're envisioning is we'll do just groups of parents. So there may be 3 or 4 different groups, depending on what the turnout is, and then we'll cycle through that academy over and over again as we go through. In discussion with that, Mr. Woodward said, really, if you want to have a good training, you really have to have a manageable number of people. If not, it becomes like a big speech. And we want the parents to actually be actively involved and practice what's going on.
But if parents are interested, there will be an opportunity for those parents.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that sounds fantastic. Thank you. Other questions or comments?
So the first step is to go to the meeting on November 7th.
Correct. Yeah, that's going to be the informational meeting. So we would like as many parents as possible to be at that. Anybody that's interested should attend that. And if you can't make it that night, we'll get in contact and get another opportunity for parents to check that out. But we want to make sure all the parents know exactly what they're getting into, because it's going to be pretty busy. But it's going to be very good quality, quality training and quality experience for our parents.
Katie.
You keep saying parents, but I do want to make it clear, because I saw in that letter that it's for current Carmel Clay School parents and guardians only.
That is correct. Yep. You need to have a kid in the school.
Good note. Any other comments? Okay, then next we have board reports. Any board members have anything more that they'd like to share this evening? Then, meeting adjourned.